Hello, everyone. Welcome to CG Spectrum's first Houdini Info session. My name is Brenda Grajales, and I am the course advisor here at CG Spectrum, where I'm part of the student admissions team, and we're essentially your first point of contact when you inquire with our school. So please don't be shy, send those inquiries in. We can answer any questions related to everything you see here, such as the admissions process, the application process, any enrollment deadlines, or pretty much anything. So feel free to reach out to us on the Inquire page on our website, or you can also email us. And I'm also going to introduce my colleague now and my co-host for today, Daniel Hourigan. Hi, Daniel.
Hi. Thank you. Hey guys, how you going? Thanks for joining us. My name is Daniel Hourigan. I'm the manager of VFX and the head of Houdini FX here at CG Spectrum. I have over 15 years experience in the film and television games industry as an effects artist. I haven't always used Houdini, but certainly in the last maybe 10 years or so, I've been using Houdini, and I love it, and I love sharing it with people, and it's a real joy now to be able to teach people how to use it. I've worked on a whole bunch of movies that you can see there, and I also have a VFX streams on our YouTube channel that you can go and check out if you want to kind of, get a bit of a sense of how I teach and just the way that we kind of do things at CG Spectrum.
Nice. Well, today we're going to be hosting our Houdini session, as we've mentioned. But I did want to tell you guys a little bit about our school. So if you're here, that means you're interested in our school, and we're essentially an online animation, VFX, digital painting, and game development school, offering specialized career training and mentorship from industry experts such as Daniel. We have over 140 industry mentors across the world currently. We tackle basically all the different time zones that we have. We have a 70 to 80% job success rate for our advanced students. We have students from all over the world right now, across 60 countries. And just like in the chat, we have people joining us from all over the world. So it's really nice to see. We also have career and development services, which I'll be speaking to a little bit more. I'll be speaking about it a little bit more later in the session. And my personal favorite is our private online community. So I'll also be talking a little bit more about that later on as we get through the session. So of course, we're here for Houdini FX information. However, we do offer all of these different courses under the 5 umbrellas that we offer here at CG Spectrum. Those umbrellas are visual effects, 3D modeling, digital painting, game development, and animation. So I did want to quickly mention all the different courses that we offer, because you can always send us an inquiry. Maybe you're going back and forth. Maybe you haven't really decided what you want to go through. So we do offer different courses, but you can always ask us any questions you may have in an email or submit an inquiry on our website. We also have an upcoming session just like this one on March 17th. And that one is all about digital illustration. My colleague Yan will be hosting that with Eric Wilkerson, and it'll be really, really interesting. So please reach out to us if you're interested in joining that session as well, and we'll be happy to send you the link to register. We are also a Houdini Certified school. So as a Houdini Certified school, we're committed to offering the most up-to-date job-focused training with high quality, affordable, and specialized education that keeps its graduates in demand. And now I'll show you guys our RFX student reel. It's a quick video, but you'll find it really interesting. Now over to you, Daniel.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I'm just going to take you through the pathways that we offer specifically with Houdini. The first pathway is pathway 1. You can see there is the Foundations for VFX course. And now this doesn't include just Houdini, but it's also focusing on modeling, animation, and then you also have the ability to choose between Houdini or compositing with Nuke. So depending on what sort of avenue of visual effects you're interested in, then you can choose, either or. We're really predominantly focused on Houdini FX today. So let's talk about pathway 2, which is the 2 Houdini courses that we offer. The first one is the intro, obviously, and to get access to the advanced course, we do require you to have done the intro course because there is a lot of fundamental information in there. And that's why it flows then onto the Houdini FX course. You can skip straight into the advanced one if you have prior experience, but you need to demonstrate that through a show reel. And I tend to encourage people to go through the introduction course because even though it's called intro, it is still a really good course and does contain a lot of valuable information that even if you have done a little bit of Houdini, you probably don't know a lot of that. So it's still a valuable course to go through, even if you have a little bit of understanding of Houdini. And then the advanced course obviously takes it even further. That also contains things like portfolio and, really trying to push you to that end goal of getting a job in visual effects. We'll go into more detail in the following slides. So software requirements for all the visual effects courses. So the Houdini courses, also Nuke, but Houdini really has higher demands for system requirements. So we provide an educational license of Houdini, which is great because it has no limitations. It's just the same as a full version. It allows you to render at whatever resolutions you might want. But we also use an educational or free educational version of Nuke. Don't really need the full version for that, for the things that we're doing. We're only focusing on sort of basic compositing with regard to how you would do it in effects with Houdini. With the advanced course, we also provide access to Redshift Renderer, which is a GPU graphics card renderer, which can help students render their work a little faster, maybe get a little better quality. We don't actually teach it as part of the course, but it's just like a kind of bonus software that that you have access to as part of the course. Now, hardware requirements for Houdini, it depends what you do in Houdini, but we will be typically doing a lot of simulation work throughout the course. So we recommend like a minimum of 8 to 12 gigabyte, but really 32 gigabytes and up is kind of where you want to go. If you have less RAM, the less stuff you're going to be able to do in Houdini. You can still do it, and I'm a big advocate for, you work within the means of your resources. So if you're only on a 16 gig laptop, you can kind of, you can do stuff and you just have to scale everything down a little bit. But the more you have, the more you can do. You also want a dedicated graphics card, and on the website, so this, which you'll be getting a copy of in a PDF format, should have links to the Houdini and Nuke requirements on their website. So you can have a look at those if you're worried about, your computer not making the specs. All right, let's go to the next slide. Our first term, the introduction term. We're looking at learning a lot of fundamental skills here. So we're first learning, basically in the first week, we learn just how to put down some geometry, how to navigate around, what all the different panes mean in Houdini, and, the various different networks that we'll be kind of using to create things. And we do some simple geometry and a little bit of rigid body simulations as well, just to kind of make it a bit more interesting. The next term, we're starting to look at animating and also adding some particles. So learning a bit about pops and the particles and how they work in a simple kind of animation. Whoa. Further to that, we go more into particles and learn a bit more about how we can control this stuff, make interesting disintegration techniques. And, we keep them kind of simple so that they're manageable for everyone, but really you can take these techniques, and what I show when I'm mentoring people is that even from these simple ideas, you can kind of go and take that and turn it into something that could be used in a feature film. The next one is transforming attributes, which is all about kind of creating attributes, controlling them, using them to manipulate geometry. And then we get into the fun stuff, simulations. So we start looking at rigid body dynamics, learning how we can create simulations that make things, collide and tumble and hit things, break apart. And that's sort of a 2-week thing. So we start off simple with that. We're sort of throwing a forklift at a wall. And then the next week is the final week where we sort of add in all these crates of fruit and it goes crazy. And, there's just all this kind of complexity that we add. So always in the projects, we sort of start simple and then add complexity as we go. After that is intro to smoke and pyro. And that's my favorite area. I've done a lot of that in my career. And that's about learning how to, make smoke, make fire, explosions, all that kind of fun stuff. So that's a really nice couple of weeks. We learn how to then create an explosion and make it look like it's in a real environment by using a real photographic background. And we learn a bit about compositing then as well, because it's okay to create your effect in Houdini, but you also want to be able to, put it on a background, make it look like it's real, just like you would if you were a visual effects artist. Then we get into flip, which is fluid simulations. So we're looking at creating water or, something slimy or, all those kind of viscous liquidy simulations. That's divided in 2 parts again. So we start simple, learn the fundamentals, and then the flip effects project, we're actually doing a kind of like chocolate pour, like you might see in a commercial for a chocolate biscuit or something, a very kind of viscous chocolate pouring down. And then the final project is kind of a wrap up of a lot of the things that we've learned throughout the term. And we work on a kind of battle sequence, something that you might find maybe in a game where you've got lots of magic going on, lots of kind of spells. And it's kind of open for interpretation. We show you one method, but a lot of students kind of take that idea and go crazy with, everything that they've learned across the term. So that's the intro. It's feature packed. There's lots of stuff going on there. That's why I recommend that people learn it, even if they have touched Houdini before, because there's a lot of really good content in there. If we go to the next slide, this is then the advanced Houdini course, which is 3 terms. So the first unit or the first intro course is just 1 term. It's just 12 weeks. But in the advanced course, we've got 3 terms. So I'll try and go through these a little bit faster, but basically we're just expanding on all of the concepts that we introduced and taking them further. We didn't really go in depth in Vex and coding in the introduction. We touch on it. We use it a little bit here and there, but here you can see in week 3, for example, we have an in-depth look at Vex and how we can use it practically, not sort of like this is Vex, off you go. We look at, real world kind of uses for it and how we can use it in production, how we can use it to manipulate our effects. I skipped forward there, but basically, the first 3 weeks are kind of still looking at fundamental ideas of how we can use VOPs, which are the sort of visual coding nodes that we have, and noise, because noise is a really important part of creating effects. You use it to add detail, you use it to create variance. So it's a really, really important thing to learn. The first week as well is learning about how to use assets that you bring in. How do you work with those? What are the things that you need to know about bringing something in from somewhere else? Then we look at copying and instancing. It's another really important part of visual effects. And we actually create a really cool kind of flocking simulation with bat geometry that we learn how to manipulate through varying attributes. Then we start looking deeper into RBDs. So we touched on it in a simple way in the introduction, and now we're going deeper into learning how to fracture, learning about different fracturing techniques, and then using constraints to hold those fractured pieces together when we simulate them. Then in weeks 7 and 8, we have a production shot, which uses those ideas that we just learned, and we have this kind of temple destruction sequence. So we get to apply all of the things that we've just learned, and that's really cool. Then building on that, we go into another Pyro week, which is about sourcing from that back to, we source from those RBDs and generate dust and really make this a complete shot with lots of visual effects ideas. Then we go further into Pyro. We didn't really touch on fire. We looked a bit at explosions in the introduction course, but now we learn how to create realistic fire. And for week 10, we create this room on fire, basically. It's a nice spreading simulation that looks awesome. And then finally, in weeks 11 and 12, we work on this like epic space battle sequence, which is kind of, vaguely based on a Star Wars shot that I saw when I built this tutorial series. And yeah, it's basically about how to create a really cool, realistic visual effects quality pyro sequence. And it's a lot of fun. It's really involved, but you end up with something that looks amazing at the end of it. We go on to term 2. We're looking at liquid, vellum, and portfolio. We're always working on portfolio here. I think that maybe is misplaced, but because the next term is portfolio, but we are always looking to develop our portfolio in these terms every term. We're going to look at learning flip in detail. We went into it in the intro, but now we're going to learn it in real depth because we've got 6 weeks of flip, which is going to teach you everything that you need to know about doing all sorts of varied flip simulations, from small scale stuff to viscous simulations. In the week 3 advanced liquid effects, we look at how to combine rigid body effects and fluid to create a kind of Terminator melting simulation that reforms into itself again. It's pretty complicated, but it's a very cool effect to learn. And then we start looking at oceans, which are another amazing part of the Houdini fluid tools. So creating waves, creating splashes within those oceans, how to blend in simulations into geometry oceans. Very important stuff when you're going into visual effects. And then the next 6 weeks are all about Vellum. So Vellum is an amazing tool set for simulating cloth, hair, grains, soft bodies. You can do a lot with Vellum. So it's a really kind of versatile tool set, and it takes quite a few weeks to kind of learn all of the different aspects of it. So we look at all the various types of Vellum, and we look at simple examples, and we get you to kind of produce your own versions of those. And then we use everything that we learned again in the effects project. So we're taking all of the ideas, grains, hair, soft bodies, tetrahedral fibers, all that kind of stuff, and putting it all together in a cool kind of worm simulation coming through the dirt, which is cool. So that's term 2. And then term 3 is really all about portfolio and career development. So what you get in this term is access to a complete career development course, which is 12 weeks long. So you can see all of those there: career pathways, industry overview, portfolio, freelance work, all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, you're also going to be working with your mentor to develop up your own personal projects for your portfolio. So this course is about developing yourself, getting ready for the industry, but at the same time, you're also going to be working on your Houdini work. Maybe it's finishing off and polishing the pieces that you have done prior, or working with your mentor to develop a completely new piece that's going to be your kind of, your standout portfolio piece. And you have 12 weeks to do that, whatever that might be. And I really like that because, previously we're kind of following the tutorials and sort of doing that stuff, but now we've kind of got a bit of free reign, and you can, with your mentor, develop up something that could be really, really, really cool, and your own personal work. Shahari had a question that I might just answer. Does the course deal with live action effects shots or complete CG like the introduction course? It is all mostly complete CG, really. I mean, that it's difficult to do the live action stuff. We do talk about it, and certainly, I talk about Nuke compositing and how you could incorporate that into live action throughout the course. And really, the thing that is good about this course is that if that's something that you're interested in, then talk to your mentor and they can help you get there with that particular aspect. And that's something that I'm going to talk about later. But yeah, as a rule, the course is mainly about learning to create the effects, not necessarily to integrate them into live action. Okay, so let's go next slide. So we've got a team of FX mentors that you will have access to. They've all worked at major studios. Some of them have worked, much longer than I have in visual effects and are amazing artists. We have FX mentors that work in different time zones. And the reason that that is useful is that, you are all in different time zones as well. So students that I can take here in Australia, I might not be able to take, in India, say, where it's 3:30 in the morning right now. And yeah, so we pair you up with a mentor that works for your time zone, but also maybe works for your interests. And if you tell us when you're enrolling that you're interested more in games, then I might go, oh, okay, well, I'll pair you with this mentor because they have a much stronger interest or knowledge in the games industry, and they can help you with that. So that's a consideration as well. And that's why, it's good to have a big pool and a big team of really skilled mentors that have lots of different and varied knowledge. All right, next slide. So this is kind of what I started talking about. This is what I see as the difference with the CG Spectrum kind of mentorship. We can tailor things to you. So if you're interested in live action, you tell your mentor and you say, hey, I really want to work on this. How can I get this done? It's important that you get your schoolwork done as well, because that's been designed to, really give you a good education. But it's this working with the mentor that I really see as a kind of, as a major plus. Imagine if you could just get the answer that you're wanting, like, how did they do that thing in that movie? Or, I want to do this, like I saw in June or something, and I want to be able to create that sandworm. How can I do that? How would they have done that? That's what I see as like your kind of main line into the industry, where you have that connection and you can ask somebody that actually knows how to do it. Or maybe even worked on it, which is cool. So it's those industry insights and advice from somebody that really knows what they're doing. You've got access to them on Slack, not just on Zoom. So we have our weekly Q&As, which last, approximately an hour, where you get to ask your questions. You'll go through course material, whatever. But then, and personal projects if there's time for it. Then you have access to them on Slack as well. So you've got access to your mentor during the week. If you're working on stuff, you get stuck, then you message them. They'll get back to you and help you. Maybe they'll do a little recording or some screen, sharing or whatever. They can help you. You don't have to wait till the end of the week and get your questions answered. You also have access to all of our mentors through the Houdini channel that we have. So we have a general channel where all the students are in, all the mentors are in. So you can just ask questions there anytime. And, you might get me answering, or you might get Ben answering, or Dave. There's all these mentors there. And, whoever's awake at the time will comment, and students as well, which is cool. We have lots of past students on there who are always helping out. And I think that's a really cool thing, and we'll talk more about the Slack community, but that's what I see as a real power of that community, is that you get access to all these people, not just the mentor that you're paired with. And the biggest thing that I see when students are finishing, they're in that portfolio term, is the help and feedback of curating that show reel. So you've got somebody that has seen a lot of show reels. They know what works, what doesn't, what gets jobs, what does not. And you can work with them, and hopefully, they'll push you. It might be hard to hear the feedback sometimes, but they will push you to create something that's hopefully going to get you that job or be the best show reel that it can be. And that's what I love. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so we're going to watch a little video now just about how the CG Spectrum kind of experience works. It's not effect specific, but it's about how the Q&As and everything kind of work. So let's have a look at that now.
If you're looking to turn your creative passion for film and games into a successful career as a digital artist in the entertainment industry, choosing the right school can be a challenging decision. But imagine if you had access to industry mentors who have worked on blockbuster films and best-selling video games, supporting you every step of the way. When you enroll at CG Spectrum, you'll be connected to the most talented artists around the world who are excited to share their years of knowledge, ensuring that you are highly trained, well-connected, and prepared for your new career. Here's how it works. At the start of each week, you'll log into your learning management system where you review lesson requirements, watch your video lectures, and get started creating the first pass of your assignment. Next, you'll upload your files and meet with your mentor for a live midweek Q&A session to review your work, problem-solve issues, and discuss any questions you might have. Mentors work within your file-solving problems in real time, demonstrating their professional workflow to ensure that you don't make the same mistake twice. After the live Q&A session, you'll have until the end of the week to address your mentor's notes and submit another pass for a final video critique, ensuring that your work is portfolio ready. During your time at CG Spectrum, you'll have access to a curriculum designed by industry-leading artists, custom created video content and supportive materials, as well as free educational software, access to our student learning portal and online community where you'll get feedback on your work and grow your professional network. By the end of the course, you'll have learned the skills necessary to produce a polished professional portfolio and have the confidence in knowing that you have what it takes to succeed as an artist in the film and game industry. So if you're interested in becoming part of the next generation of production-ready artists and joining alumni at major studios all over the world, let us help you find your pathway to success. To be the best, learn from the best at CG Spectrum.
So, job opportunities. You learn Houdini. What are you going to do with it? Houdini, really is unlimited in its potential of what sort of job you can get with it. Here's a list of jobs that are sort of mostly about working in the visual effects industry for either film, television, or games. So, you've got effects artists and you'll be using Houdini all the time. You'll basically just be creating explosions and dust and slime and, whatever the director or visual effects supervisor can think of, you'll be asked to do. And that's fun. Yeah, that's what I do. And it's a lot of fun. It's a real kind of challenging job. And it's always something new, which keeps it fresh. Then you have character effects artists. So that's an effects artist as well, but specifically dealing with the types of challenges that pop up with working with characters. So you're looking at cloth, hair, maybe drool and things associated with the mouth of a character, possibly the footsteps or things, but it's mainly to do with the effects, maybe feathers, things like that. So specifically around working with the effects that are on a character. Now, lead effects artist, that is really what I am. And they are just the same. They've been an effects artist. They've worked up through, the years, and they've got a lot of experience, and they can then use that experience to lead a team of artists. They might be responsible for building the setups, helping diagnose problems, helping other artists work on things and offering solutions. And, maybe when things go wrong, they get called in to kind of fix everything. Then an effects supervisor is, they probably have been an artist as well. So all of these things, it's all about working your way up to these jobs. And they are more about making sure the show runs smoothly, making sure everybody has the resources that they need, assigning tasks to people. They will also work on kind of giving estimates of how long certain tasks will take to the production department, and then they will use those to kind of bid for films, and all the financial kind of stuff comes from that. But yeah, they're also about giving feedback. So the effects supervisor will review your work and give you feedback, and that's a massive part of working in the film industry and visual effects. And more, Houdini, really you could take it and work in any industry where 3D is needed. It is a complete 3D package. It doesn't just have to be all about explosions and fluid simulations. It could be used for architectural visualization or medical imaging, or whatever takes your fancy. It is just a really cool and useful tool for many industries. So here's a couple of student testimonials, and you can read these at your own time, but basically it's just about showing that we have students that are going through, and this is just a small sample of our students that have gone through our courses and really enjoyed them. I mean, Christian there in the middle, when I was working at Method Studio at the time, we hired him before he had even finished the course because he had such an exceptional reel for a student, and we brought him in as a kind of as a junior effects artist. I can't remember what film it might have been, Men in Black or something like that, maybe Tomb Raider. I can't remember which film it was. You'd probably look at his IMDb if you wanted to, but that's the kind of thing that can happen if you're willing to put in the time and really push yourself to be a great effects artist. Then you can get plucked out by those studios and hired. But yeah, it's good to have these student testimonials, and there's lots of them around that attest to how good the mentorship is and how good the program is for getting you into that career.
Yeah, and I feel like someone like Christian probably learned a lot as well when he was at the job. So that's another thing too with this sort of work. You're constantly improving, you're learning, and maybe your work isn't at the level that you're expecting it to be at, but it's still really good. You have amazing skill sets and you're constantly building up on that.
Yeah, that's right. Definitely.
Yeah. So some of our graduates work at studios like this one. Yeah, just again, sharing some success stories. Our entire model is based around the fact that we want our students to be employed after they graduate. So it's really, really good to hear when, our students get jobs. And we also have a career and development manager, which I'll be talking about a little bit later as well. So I'm just going to go over some of the benefits at studying at CG Spectrum because there are so many. So with one of the things that we pride ourselves on, and Daniel talked about this a little bit earlier, is that access and that resource, which is incredibly important, and that is your mentor. So we believe that with a greater level of personal interaction and guidance from our industry mentors, students can progress faster and graduate with the job skills and confidence to pursue their dream career. Some of the other benefits are flexible class scheduling. So online education is ideal for students who live far from a traditional animation or game design school. Maybe some students need flexibility around their work or family commitments, and maybe some people just prefer to study from the comfort of their own home, which is absolutely wonderful. And that's something that we offer here as well. We have flexible payment plans and upfront discounts on our courses. We have our live weekly Q&A calls with our mentor, like Daniel mentioned earlier. It is about an hour long every week. We also have our community, which I'll be speaking about a little bit later, more in depth. But we also have our 2 different study options, which are the one-on-one private study option or the small group classes. And in these small group classes, there's usually a maximum of 4 students per mentor. So your time with, like, during the live Q&A session is never really crowded. You are sharing that session, but you're still having an incredible learning experience, and your mentor is still going to give you that feedback that you're looking for to help you move on with your goals and your projects. So there are actually 2 main differences that I wanted to highlight between the 2 different study options. And the first difference is that in the private one-on-one study option, the mentor has the ability to tailor the curriculum a little bit more to suit your needs. And that is what Daniel was talking about earlier. If you are interested in learning a little bit more about a particular subject, you can communicate that to your mentor, let them know, and they would be able to have some flexibility there with the curriculum and tailor it a little bit more to your needs. The second difference is that the Q&A sessions, which happen once a week, are more flexible when it comes time to scheduling because it's just you and your mentor. So you're not having to coordinate the scheduling of the 3 other students. It's just you and your mentor. So it is more flexible in that sense. And if you are one-on-one with your mentor, you can spend that entire hour with your mentor. So there are definitely pros to both options. It just depends on what's right for you at this time. We typically recommend the private one-on-one study option for students that have, family commitments or students that are considering a career change and they don't necessarily want to resign at their current position. So we offer that as well. Just a lot of flexibility around, basically just choose whatever works for you at this time. We also will be inviting you to our private CG Spectrum community when you are a student. It is a lively and supportive network of peers, mentors, and alumni who work at film and game studios from all over the world. So by taking advantage of this community, there are many, but I will talk about it in a second. So moving on, we have our career and development manager here with us at CG Spectrum. Her name is Maxine Schnepp. She is wonderful and she is on it. She is ready to help you whenever you need some help. Helping students find employment is actually very important to us. And that is why we have Maxine, who is our dedicated career and development manager. She regularly hosts exclusive career-focused webinars, Q&As, artist interviews, and workshops for CG Spectrum students and alumni. And she's also available to schedule a one-on-one call through Zoom with you to answer any career-related questions. So I guess once you're a student, I would highly, highly recommend that you connect with Maxine. She will be an incredible asset and an incredible resource for you throughout your studies. It's never too early to start thinking about what your end goal is when it comes time to your career path. We also have tons of resources on our website, including a career pathways tab, which I also encourage you to check out. We have a detailed breakdown of all the different job positions that you could acquire by taking our Houdini courses pathway. And I know Daniel talked a little bit about all the different career options that may be available to you or that you might be interested in. So we do have a detailed breakdown of that on our website. It also includes, job responsibilities, or there is, the salary range estimated, of course. So lots of information there for you. And the last resource I'll quickly mention is our Houdini FX course guide, which our marketing team just worked on it. It looks amazing. So you should have had the link already, but if you haven't, please let me know. We'll get that to you right away to get the Houdini course guide. It has a breakdown of the curriculum that Daniel went through earlier and a bunch of other resources that you might find helpful. So moving on. This is our CG Spectrum community. I keep talking about this, but it truly is my favorite thing about our school. It is a vast community of incredibly talented individuals who share the same passion and interest as you, and who are also very welcoming and just nice. So it's a good community to be a part of because you don't have to worry about, oh, what are they going to think? Should I even be asking this? Like, none of that. I highly, highly encourage you guys to get in there, connect, you would be added to all the different channels that we have, not just Houdini FX. You would be added to our general channels. Sometimes there are jobs that are posted, available jobs. There are also contests that some of our artists can enter and engage with. So that's really, really fun. You can also, the reason I really like the community is because it's a great resource when it comes to all of that, but also when you're connecting with your peers. So you're constantly hearing about, oh, you should network, you should network, you should network, but it sounds a little bit daunting, and it really does not have to be that way. You can just start a simple conversation with somebody on the Slack channel, or even pop in some of your work and say, hey, everyone, my name is so-and-so. I've been working on this shot, and I have, I've been hung up on this particular thing. Is this something you could help me with? Does anybody have any suggestions or ideas on how to better do this? And that would be a great way to get started with connecting with people, and you're going to get really good feedback as well. So that will only make you a better artist and progress a lot quicker than if you're just kind of doing everything on your own and problem solving on your own all the time. And I guess that brings us to our Q&A portion of the session. I know Daniel did answer a question already earlier, which is amazing, but we did get a couple more questions.
Yeah, I've got a couple here that I flagged for answering live. I just wanted to, so also on the community thing, it's kind of, it is full of so many different people from studying all those different courses that we talked about earlier. And the cool thing is you can start up your own kind of channel where you could run a project. You know, you could run a collaborative project, and we have quite a few of those going at the moment, where students have gotten together and they're like, hey, you know, we all want to work on this thing, and you work on it all together. And if you want mentor support with that as well, you can invite a couple of mentors in, and we can help you. You know, we can offer advice or how to, you know, how to fix certain problems or how to run the project, or even how to host, you know, all the data and all that kind of stuff. So that's a really cool aspect as well. The other thing that I've noticed with the Slack community is that ex-students or alumni that have graduated and then gone on to get jobs sometimes come back and post, you know, hey, my studio is looking for this artist, or are there any effects artists that are finishing that, you know, have a reel that they can send in because my studio is looking for people. And that's awesome. You know, that's really great that the alumni can come back and, you know, share that opportunity with everyone else. So it's a really valuable community that you get access to for, you know, forever. The course, you know, the course ends and that's it, but the Slack community keeps going and you still have access to that after you graduate. Maybe even when you go into your job. I have students who are working that are still asking questions. Hey, yeah, I've got this problem at work, you know, how can I fix it? Which is fine, you know, that's great. We just want to help you guys succeed. So yeah, it is a really good community and very beneficial. Okay, so Francisco asked, what is the major difference between Houdini and Nuke? So they're big differences. Houdini is a full 3D creation package. So it's for 3D modeling, it's for lighting, rendering, a lot of simulating particle effects, fluids, rigid body destruction, all that kind of stuff. Nuke is a compositing software, which is about taking layers, bringing them in, and, you know, it's like Photoshop where you're kind of layering things up to create an image. So you tend not to create as much in Nuke, though you can. You tend to just get assets from other people. So a Nuke artist at a studio will be taking renders of the explosion from the Houdini artist, bringing it in, taking the footage, you know, the live action plate. That's the background. They put the explosion over the top and they make it look good. So that's compositing. It is really a very different kind of thing to Houdini, but together they work really well. So Houdini's for creation, Nuke is for compositing, layering, finishing, and then final output.
And Daniel, just a quick reminder for anyone listening, when do the two interact in our course?
So in the introduction course, there's a couple of weeks where we introduce Nuke. So I think it's when we do the explosion, week 8-ish. We learn how to composite that explosion. And then in the final project as well, we learn how to composite all those layers of that magic battle together in Nuke. Then in the advanced course, we touch on it in a few different locations when we're putting our projects together. So in the Pyro temple scene, also in the giant space battle, and the room on fire. So we look at it quite a bit. At the end of each project, we sort of bring it into Nuke and learn how to put all of our stuff together for final export. And that's really important. You know, renders when they come out of Houdini aren't always completely polished or exactly how we want them. So we might want to adjust, you know, we might want to tweak some colors, add some glows, layer things up a little more, or render things in different layers and bring them together. So it is a really important skill to learn as an effects artist.
Yes.
Um,
Just quickly
sorry,
before we move on, the software Houdini is included in the cost of your tuition for anybody wondering. So we do provide that here at CG Spectrum.
That's right. And it is a full-featured education version, which means no watermarks, render whatever resolution you like. You can export stuff. You can, the apprentice free version that you can download from Side Effects now, you're limited by certain things. So it's good to have a full-featured version when you want to produce good quality stuff for your showreel. So Kyle asks, Term 3 for Foundation of VFX covers the intro to Houdini. After completing, would I be able to go into the advanced Houdini course? Yes, you can. So you go through the full Foundations course, and this is often a path that people will take where they go through the last term of the Foundations course is the Intro to Houdini course. So you've done that, and you can go straight into the advanced course afterwards if you want to continue learning more about Houdini. Absolutely. You don't have to do that again.
And just to quickly add to this, the Introduction to Houdini FX course is a prerequisite for the 9-month course. However, if some people have extensive Houdini knowledge and they're still interested in taking the 9-month course, you would then submit a portfolio for review to us that we can have, someone like Daniel assess, and then based on his feedback, we would place you in the appropriate course. So you don't always have to worry about not having done the intro course, although it is highly recommended because, like Daniel mentioned earlier, everything that you're learning is built upon later in the course.
That's right, and yeah, I mean, I do review a lot of reels that do want to skip the intro course, and some of them do have the appropriate kind of work that I want to see. But basically, what I'm looking for, if you're thinking about doing that, is I want to see that you have all of the skills that are shown in the introduction course, because if you don't, and we go, deeper into rigid bodies, for example, you will have missed the introduction that we're not going to be covering again in the advanced course, because we assume that you've already done that intro. And you might struggle a little bit. So that's what we want to avoid. We want to make sure that you have the best experience and that you don't fall behind. So that's the reason why we kind of do it based on a real assessment. But feel free to send them in if you think that you have enough prior knowledge to skip the intro, definitely. Okay, so what are the education qualification requirements for this course to go smoothly? Look, I mean, the courses are taught in English, so that is a requirement, although, sometimes we do have some mentors that speak different languages, so we could always explore that option. But yeah, just basic skills, language skills, and also basic computer skills. You want to be able to know how to use your computer, some prior kind of experience with creating stuff in some sort of program like Photoshop or some 3D work does kind of benefit you a little bit. But we'll still show you how to use Houdini from scratch. So if you've never used it before, if you've never used a 3D software before, then you will still be able to do it. It definitely does benefit you having prior experience, but it's not a prerequisite.
Yeah. We have another question from Morgan here.
Sure.
It says, is there a research side to FX technology one could get into after learning production effects? And if so, how?
Is there a research side? Where is that question? Oh, here. I suppose you certainly could. I mean, the thing with, learning Houdini, it's not, as I said earlier when I was talking about the jobs, it's kind of like you learn Houdini and then you can kind of do whatever you want with it. Yes, our course is focused predominantly on visual effects, but if you wanted to go really deep into learning about effects technology, I'm not sure exactly what avenue you're talking about when you say that, but you certainly could, with that knowledge that you gain from the course, go much deeper and learn more about how these things are built at a ground level. we don't go that deep into it in the course because it's not necessary for a visual effects artist to know on a minute level how the solvers are using those fluid dynamics equations and all that kind of stuff, but if you were interested in that, then you certainly could take the knowledge that you've learned from a production course and apply it in more depth. How that's a challenging question because it really depends on how much knowledge you have in what areas. You would probably really need to focus on learning a lot more about Python scripting, learning Vex, all that kind of stuff that's going to get you deeper. Python certainly is a big one if you want to get deeper into effects technology and building tools and maybe creating your own stuff. You absolutely need to learn Python. So yeah, I mean, you could. It would have to be really self-directed after that, and following that path of whatever you want to get into. But yes, you could. I'm just having a look at the other questions here.
There is a question from Michaela that I could answer.
Yep.
So her question is, after graduation, what is recommended to do to keep Houdini when no longer a student? Unrelated to the course, I was wondering how I can get in touch with VFX students or alumni who would be open to work on indie short films. So we actually do get a lot of people asking us that question. My recommendation is that you email us directly. The email address is hello@cgspectrum.com. And once we receive that email from you, Michaela, we'll be able to connect you with our career and development manager, Maxine. And she has a roster of students and talented people that could potentially be interested. So she would be in charge of sharing that information to the appropriate channels. And hopefully you could get someone to work on there. Now, in terms of the first part of your question, were you referring to the license? Let me know what you mean by that if you can. We can help clarify that for you. But in terms of part of your question, yeah.
I mean, with the education license in Houdini, it does expire. You usually get it it depends when the license was purchased, but you usually get it for a little bit after your course, but it will end. It's associated with you studying here, and when that finishes, the license typically ends. Yeah. When you graduate, you do get access to what's called a Houdini graduate license, which is not free. You do have to pay for it, but it's basically a full license at a reduced cost. Just for graduates, it lasts for 6 months. So you have access to that. But then after that, if you want to keep working and using the full resolutions and not be limited, then you could purchase the Houdini Indie license, which is not that expensive. I mean, in terms of software prices, it's fairly cheap. It's still a couple of $100s, but when you look at the cost of Nuke, let's say, for a production studio, it's like thousands of dollars. So, a couple of $100s isn't bad, especially if you're going to use it as a job. You might be going to be a freelance artist or something. Then it's not too bad, but there are options there. If you just want to keep it for practicing, then you could always just use the free apprentice version and accept some of the limitations that go along with that. But yeah, hopefully that kind of answers your question there. I wanted to answer this question from Christian. You say that you're doing the Foundations of Game Design course, and you're thinking about the intro course and want to know the differences between Unreal and Houdini. So Unreal, is this great real-time environment tool for creating games, and also now, in recent years, being used for film production, which is really exciting. But it's still limited in kind of what you can do, and the quality, the kind of, I guess, the number of particles and all that kind of stuff is limited because it is a real-time environment. And as soon as you increase that stuff to a level that you might be getting in film, it slows down and it ceases to be real time. So I guess, that's the difference. Houdini it can certainly create low resolution things, which could be used in Unreal, definitely. But for, for a lot of the stuff that, well, what I do is use it for creating really, really high resolution simulations for film. But you can export things directly from Houdini using the Houdini engine. You can basically run Houdini inside of Unreal. So you can create a little setup, a little tool, maybe it's a little like spark when a character hits the ground or something. And you can actually open that in Unreal and have controls for the sliders that you had in Houdini, which is awesome. I've just been playing with that recently and it's very, very cool. You still have to keep it fairly low resolution so you don't, reduce your frame rate. But yeah, Houdini and Unreal is a partnership that is only going to get stronger. They have been announcing all sorts of different initiatives together. And I think Epic has also invested in Houdini. So that kind of connection between those two things is only going to get stronger. And as we see the technology improve and Unreal be able to handle more and more data, we'll see that quality level come up. And hopefully eventually, the level between games and film is sort of blurred and they are very similar in quality, which we're already starting to see. So yeah, absolutely, you can use Houdini and Unreal. Houdini is great for creating whatever you want. There are no limitations in Houdini. And then, getting it into Unreal has its own challenges, but you can certainly do it. Let's take another look. Vinit had a question saying, currently I'm preparing a 3D lighting reel, and you're concerned about the complexity of Houdini, not confident that you'll be able to learn it. Look, I hear this a lot with Houdini, and students, I think I saw another question about math and programming. There is an element of that in Houdini, and it is a very technical program, or it can be, but I wouldn't let that put you off. There is going to be at some point a little bit of programming that you might have to learn, very small amount. And we teach that in the course, but it doesn't have to be that. There are lots of options in Houdini for how to create things, and you can go the non-technical way, which is more sort of node-based and connecting things up, or you can go the very technical way, which is just typing lines of code. I am an artistic person and I am not a technical person, or I have little leanings to technical stuff, but really I'm a visual person and I like the node creation method. And then you'll find other people that are really, really technical and they'll use just lines of code, and that's fine. That's the good thing about Houdini, is there's no like rules of how you have to create things. There are good, maybe more efficient ways than less efficient ways, but you can choose the path that you want. And if you don't like coding or Vex or, the complex stuff, then you start simple. And maybe eventually you'll start to pick up a few of those technical things and add them to your repertoire. And slowly you'll be like, oh, hey, cool, I can write these lines of code. But yeah, that's what I like about Houdini, is the options. I'm not a technical person, and I did not know any of the kind of Vex technical stuff when I first got into it. But over time, I get more comfortable with it. The more you use it, the more familiar it becomes, and you'll find yourself, being much more technical anyway. And on top of that, there is math and there is some programming, and the programming language that we mainly use is Vex inside of Houdini, but you can also use Python. I don't at all. There is some math, but again, it's up to you if you want to use that or not. If you don't want to go that math kind of way, then you don't have to. You can just mess around in other ways. But it does help to have, basic understanding of addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, all that kind of stuff. And you will be working in Houdini and then realize that the things that you were taught in school actually did have a purpose. So yeah, again, it's up to you though. You can follow whichever path you like in Houdini, and you will just naturally kind of find your way.
Nice. We also have a question from Shaheen. He says, are the classes with the mentors pre-recorded or live stream on Zoom? So the lecture and the course material are pre-recorded materials, like we showed you in the How It Works video, but the live Q&A session with your mentor is recorded on Zoom, and you can play it back because they're going to be critiquing your shot and your work. So you can always play it back as you're working through another pass with your assignment. And again, if some students maybe can't make it to the live Q&A session 1 week or so, we would still recommend that students submit their work for review, and the mentor will still review the work even though you're not there, give you feedback and tips, so you can always watch that later on, so you're not missing a full week of studies and work.
That's right. I mean, it is a live session, a live feedback session where you submit your files. The mentor will open them up. We're talking to each other, you know, hi, how's your week been? And, you know, what challenges have you faced? How did you go? You get a chance to get all of your questions answered. If you had problems, then the mentor can open your file and, you know, we'll go through it together. Okay, tell me what's going on here. Where's the errors? Let's have a look at this, and we'll diagnose things. And then, you know, if that only takes half the class, then the rest of the class can be discussions about other things, or your mentor just, you know, hey, let's, like, seeing as we're talking about this week, let's have a look at this little technique, or let me show you something that I did in Game of Thrones, or whatever. You know, it's like, it's a really cool kind of personal experience. You're not just, you know, sitting there listening, you are conversing with somebody and you get a chance to ask them questions. And that's, you know, that's the difference of this whole course.
I guess a good follow-up to that would be Vinit's question, which says the course is completely online, right? Any option for offline sessions? So there is no option. All of our courses are offered 100% online. We're an online school, and that is what allows us to welcome students from all over the world. So we don't have a campus or anything like that, but that's who we are. So I hope that answers that question.
There's a few questions there about, you know, working and how to keep improving after you've completed the course and you haven't got a job yet, or what is the chance of getting a job? The chance of getting a job after the course is really down to how much work you put in. You know, you can breeze through the course, you can do the bare minimum, and you're not, you know, I mean, if you're amazing, maybe, but you have to put in a lot of work to get a job in visual effects, and you have to create a showreel that is incredibly polished. So, and this goes into what can you keep doing after the course if you haven't got a job yet. You need to keep pushing those boundaries and constantly reviewing the work that you're doing and thinking about, is this the best work? And often what I tell students when I'm reviewing their reels or talking to them about their reels is, you have to think of it from the mindset of a supervisor or somebody who's reviewing your show reel, and think, you know, if they can see like just a little bit of an error or a problem, they're going to pick up on it straight away. So you have to kind of put on this supervisor, you know, or reviewer's hat and think, can I see any problems? Are there any areas that maybe could be better or could be refined? Because guaranteed they'll see it. They'll see it immediately, and they'll see things that you can't see as well, which is hard. But, you know, like, you really need to constantly review your own stuff and keep pushing. You can't just stop and think, okay, I've done my show reel, I'm going to send it out and get a job. You have to just keep pushing. And that's, you know, that's all you can do. Keep pushing your skills, keep practicing. It's a really important thing with Houdini to just keep practicing, trying out your own things. Put the tutorials to one side and go, okay, I'm going to try and create this thing from scratch now, because that is how you learn. That's how you see problems, or how you encounter problems and then have to solve them on your own. And that's a really important part of, you know, pushing yourself further in Houdini. So yeah, you know, the chance of getting a job is strong, but really it is about how much you have to put into your course and the development of your portfolio. And if you push yourself very hard with your mentor's help, you know, there's a good chance that you will get a job. The good thing for me as a, you know, as an effects artist working in the industry, as well as being a mentor, is that I frequently get asked by studios, you know, hey, do you know anyone? Hey, are you available? Do you know anyone that's available? And I'm like, oh, well, let me just have a look at my students that have completed the course recently, and I'll send you some of their portfolios and see if, you know, see if any of them are suitable. but I'm not going to choose the student that hasn't put in the work and doesn't have a strong portfolio. So really, it's about you putting in the work and working together with your mentor.
That's right. It's about building good habits from the start, because that also transfers when you do get the job. In a studio setting, for example, you will be working on a shot for days, hours, weeks, months, who knows, but you're constantly getting feedback on these shots, and you're having to go back to your desk, work on the critiques that you've received, submit it for another pass. And that's just how the industry works. So we also try to mirror that here as well. And like Daniel mentioned, it's good to have those habits from the beginning.
Absolutely. Shambhala has a question about compositing. When I learn Houdini, will I be able to become a compositor too? I mean, if you really took to Nuke and went out and learnt more as well, really the compositing stuff that we teach in the Houdini course is specifically about how to composite your effects work. You will need to know more if you want to go and get a job as a compositor, but it will be a good introduction into Nuke for you that you could build upon. But I would probably then recommend, if you wanted to be a compositor, go and do the compositing course, because that's going to teach you all of the things that you need to know about how to work with footage, how to do it properly. In Houdini, we're all about just bringing in our layers, layering them up, making them look pretty. And then in a visual effects studio, we would be passing that to a compositor to make sure that we did our work properly, and to make sure that, all the colors are right and there's nothing weird going on. And yeah, so it would be a good intro, but you would need to do more, certainly.
Mm-hmm.
That I've noticed a couple of questions about working at the same time in a studio as well as studying, and that is certainly possible. I have had many students that have maybe they got a job whilst they were going through the course with me, or they have just been working and doing the course at the same time, and that's completely fine. That is the good thing about our times. You would probably want to do a one-on-one in that case, because you may have very specific questions that you need a full hour to really kind of talk about. Mm-hmm. But yeah, absolutely, you could do that. We can choose a time that works for you. It will be after work, obviously. It might be in your lunch break if you can manage that. But yeah, absolutely you can. That is the good thing about the flexibility of these online courses and our Q&A times, is that you pick a time that works for you. Everyone, like most people, work, so a lot of the students will pick a time that, it might be before work, it might be after work, it might be during a break, or it might be on the weekend. Everybody's schedules are different, and we have mentors that can accommodate.
That's right. And keep in mind, our mentors are also working full-time in the industry, so they're definitely able to balance both. A lot of our current students are also in a full-time job right now, or they're switching careers. So there's a lot of people in the same situation as you. And it, like Daniel said, it is definitely possible to do that.
That's right. Definitely.
Okay.
Let's have another look.
We've got Shaheen. What does the breakdown of the 20 hours look like? So that depends on the course. Daniel, do you want to speak more about that specifically to the
Sure. I mean, course? I guess as a student, each week you're going to get access to the week's content. You will watch the videos, go through everything. Each student is different, how they approach learning. You might watch for a bit, pause the video and go and build, or maybe watch it all the way through and then try and build it yourself. It depends, and the tutorials are structured differently as well, where sometimes it's a follow along type of tutorial, and sometimes it's this is how you use this tool, now you create something cool with what we've just shown you. They're all different. Some are full projects. So you would go through and learn those videos, do your work, then you submit it before your Q&A. So you will have from the end of your last Q&A to the next Q&A to do your work. You submit it before, and then the day of the Q&A, you'll meet with your mentor. The mentor will go through everything with you, get your questions answered. Also, during the week, you can ask your mentor questions in Slack, don't forget. But for the Q&A, you'll get all your questions answered, you'll have a good chat with your mentor, and then you will kind of go away and have time to refine that stuff if you want to. If you want to make those changes, you can finish that off. And then you can submit that again for final review if you want to. If you want to get some final feedback on, maybe you've rendered it out, submitted a movie, and you just want some feedback from your mentor, or you can keep going on to the next week's work. So it's up to you how much time you spend. Some people will spend lots of time. Some people will spend, just the 20 hours or 10 hours or whatever they can manage. Everyone's different, like I said earlier, and everyone has commitments that, might make it hard to do a certain number of hours, but that's kind of what it looks like. Then on our Slack channel, all of our Slack channels, you will see things happening during the week. So you might be able to go, this is another thing that we didn't mention during the presentation, which is we also offer these open sessions every week, which are run by a mentor. Ben Fox, in this case, runs them at the moment. And that's a drop-in session for any Houdini student that might want a bit of extra help during the week. So if you've got, and that's a good place to ask questions that are kind of outside the course as well, where you can just drop into these Zoom sessions with him, and he's just waiting for people to come and ask questions. And if no one shows up, he'll just kind of do some, some interesting tutorial and post the recording. But that is a really good opportunity for you to kind of, hey, I'm struggling with this thing and my Q&A is not for another few days. Could you give me a hand and solve this so I can finish it? So that is another really useful aspect of, of the community, and that's all kind of run through Slack. So that's, typically that's kind of what your week is going to look like.
Perfect. We have a question about being able to do the advanced course and possibly having the frequently asked, so our live Q&A session, essentially bi-weekly instead of weekly. Yes, that is possible, but that is a case-by-case situation. So in your case, I would recommend that you send us an email, hello@cgspectrum.com, and we will pick that up, the student admissions team, and just start the conversation with you about how we can do that and how that would look like for you. We do have courses starting every month, typically on the first Monday of the month. So you don't really have to wait long to enroll. Just whenever you're ready, send us an email and we'll get you started.
Vinit has a question about basic Nuke compositing. Yes, basic Nuke compositing, specifically around using it with Houdini, is taught in both the intro and the advanced course. You also have a question about salary and pay in the US and Canada. There is some information in that PDF that should be getting sent to you, or you should already have a link about it. Mm-hmm. I don't work in the US. It is different for every country, unfortunately. So I can't just say a number. What I get paid in Australia is very different to what you might be able to get in the US and Canada. But have a look at that document, because we have tried to give some good ranges there. And, it's going to be different no matter where you go. Each studio is going to offer you different money, and each country is going to offer you different money. So it's a tricky kind of thing, but have a look at that careers document that we will send out, and you should be able to get a bit of an idea through there.
There's also that link you shared earlier in the chat, which is our career pathways tab on the website.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Additionally, that's also something that Maxine can work on with students on a case-by-case situation. She's, of course, not a job provider, but she does have knowledge about the different studios around the world. So she could definitely help you out with that as well, depending on your location.
Definitely. The Vfx Industry Guide is on there as well. If you follow all the VFX buttons, you will eventually find more information about what effects artists do, and you can access that visual effects industry guide through there as well.
Okay, so I don't know. Are we missing any more questions?
I think we are, yeah, I think we're good. Is anyone any last minute questions before we wrap up, guys?
Any last minute questions, let us know. Otherwise, you have our email, hello@cgspectrum.com. You can get in touch with us directly. Myself or my colleagues, Yen and Elena, will reach out to you. As I mentioned earlier, we are essentially your first point of contact when you inquire with our school. So no questions are off limits. Just send those questions in and we can help you get started. And last but not least, thank you so much for joining us. I guess that concludes our session.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks, Daniel.
See you.
Bye.